I spent 2 weeks testing the 56mm f1.7 from Viltrox autofocus lens, and today we're going to find out if it is worth it. And make sure you watch until the end of the video because I will tell you everything that you need to know to be able to win this lens. This is a $140 lens from Viltrox. 56mm focal length, meaning that it is suitable for portraits with a 85 or so millimeter equivalent in full frame. I've taken this lens with me for several portrait sessions where I took it with the cherry blossom and travelers that were visiting. And surprisingly, the results that I got with this lens were pretty good. Now, if we only talk about image quality, the image that I get with this lens is pretty sharp, not the sharpest at 1.7, as you can see that some details, especially at the center, that's what I look at the most when I take portrait, right? Some details at the centers are sometimes lost. You also do have some chromatic aberration with this lens that can be easily corrected in post, so that is not a big issue here. So the overall image quality for $140 is actually pretty good if you are not looking at extreme sharpness edge to edge. But usually that is not the most important requirement when it comes to portrait, to have full sharpness of your image and every single wrinkle and details and pimples in your skin that appear sharp. Now, the minimum focus distance for this lens is about 55 centimeters, and it allows you to have a good separation between the subject and the background with good bokeh as well. Now, the aperture goes from f1.7 to f16. Now, in my test at f1.7, you do get a little lack of sharpness that gets better from f2.8 to f4. You also get some vignetting at f1.7 that can be also corrected in post, and the vignetting completely disappear around f4. Now, in terms of autofocus capabilities, because yes, this is an autofocus lens for the X mount, the lens does pretty good. I would not say not as good as native lenses with linear motors, because there's a huge price difference, right? Almost 8 to 10 times. The lens does pretty good at following the subject. I would say that overall, in my test where I asked some clients or some people that I was testing the lens with to run towards the camera, I would get about 50 to 60% accuracy in terms of autofocus with the X-T5, which is not too bad for this lens and its price. But if you are looking for something that is always on point in autofocus, then this lens is definitely not made for you. Now, in terms of size and weight, well, this lens I think weighed about 130 grams or so, which is extremely light. You barely feel it on your system, and it really feels easy to carry. So if you're someone who is on the move, like I actually am when I'm on my portrait sessions, because I go to parks or go to some specific areas with the couples or people that I photograph, it's actually very comfortable to use this lens because you can just slide it in your pocket and you won't feel the weight at all. And I grabbed this lens basically with the 18mm and the 33mm for Fujifilm, and it was a good complement if I wanted an extra reach. So overall, very good in terms of weight and size, very compact. It fits in every single pocket that I have or in my bag easily. Now, in terms of filter size, this has a filter size of 52mm, which is pretty small, honestly, compared to the lenses that I have. The 33mm from Fuji is at 58, if I remember correctly. So this is, well, a little bit smaller than what I'm used to. But if you are someone who have other lenses with this field of thread, then you can use this one without having to buy any extra accessory. Now, this lens has 9 aperture blades, meaning that you get relatively smooth and uniform bokeh. And especially at 1.7, I would say that the transition between the in-focus part and the out-of-focus part is very smooth, and the bokeh is quite nice to look at. Nothing particular with the bokeh, but for $140, honestly, you cannot ask for much more. Overall, I would say that the experience with this lens was pretty good. It is a very simple lens to use. You can just hop it on your Fujifilm camera and just, because it doesn't have an aperture ring, it only has a focus ring. You cannot change the aperture directly on the lens. You have to use your camera for that, which is for me kind of a shame because I prefer aperture rings overall. But overall, the experience with this lens was pretty good. I mean, honestly, I have to lower my expectations here because it's a $140 lens. So for that price, you get images that are actually pretty good and the experience is pretty decent. The autofocus is not amazing per se, but it works pretty well. So if you are on a budget and trying to create portrait pictures, I think that this lens can find its way to your bag and it will be enough for you to create good pictures with it. Now, Viltrox already has a 56mm f1.4 with aperture ring. That is more on the pro side of things. If you are someone that is on a lower budget than this, I think that this is why Viltrox released this lens. Something that is very cheap, that still has good image quality, but will sacrifice more budget on the body itself and no aperture ring and the simplicity overall. But if you want the image quality, I would say, yeah, you should go for the 56mm f1.4. That is also an autofocus lens, and that will come at around $350 if I remember correctly, while this one is about $150, very cheap, but will allow you to get good quality images, sacrificing a little bit of build quality because you also do not have weather resistance with this lens, so you cannot use it in some particular situations. Now recently there has been a trend of third-party manufacturers releasing even cheaper autofocus lenses for the Fujifilm system or other mounts as well. And I think that this is gonna be more and more common in the future to have this kind of very cheap lens that still have autofocus, and it will make it basically more accessible for more and more people to be able to afford decent quality lens. Honestly, the quality is not bad at all, but decent quality lens that allow you to create good images with autofocus for your cameras without breaking the bank. And this is great news because this will also force the actual manufacturers, the actual makers, to decrease a bit their budget as well to be able to answer this particular competition. The more third party they are that are able to lower the cost, the better it is for us consumer. So let me know down in the comments if you have any question about this lens, what you think about the images that were created with it. To get a chance to win this lens, all that you have to do is to be subscribed to the channel, leave a comment on this video telling me why you would want this lens and what you would photograph with it, and follow me as well on Instagram where I will actually announce the winner for this lens on my stories. So thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.